What are some traits that you picked up in your professional life or career or job that maybe don't serve you anymore, and outside of work those things can become toxic? I have a few. Can you identify the ones that you've picked up? Do you need to identify them and do you need to change them? I think I have 7 toxic traits or traits that have become toxic that as I'm no longer working, I'm dealing with and trying to let go of some of these things to enjoy not working. I need to get over having any type of expectation. Obviously, retirement isn't what I expected. What it was going to be like when my daughter went off to college isn't anything like I expected. Being home, just me and my 16-year-old isn't going the way I expected. All better, well, maybe not. My 16-year-old might not be going better, but all better than I expected. Giving up having these grandiose expectations. I expected to live a minimal life in retirement. Like I was putting the expectation that I couldn't do anything, I couldn't go anywhere, I had to be at home, it was going to be this minimal life. Well, with the supplemental income that I talked about in my last video, I can figure out ways that I can work a little bit to be able to do some of the extra things that I want to do. A toxic trait, and maybe you have this, what are your expectations of anything? Retirement, your dinner date, the weather. That one is never as we expect. I have to mention my expectations for this channel and doing YouTube as a hobby or supplemental income. My expectation for YouTube was super low, and it's still pretty low because it's a lot more work than people realize. My expectation for YouTube was a year from now figuring out what this was going to look like. And I still think I have time to figure out what this is going to look like. It has exceeded my expectation. So I set a low expectation. This has exceeded my expectation. A lot of times things don't exceed your expectation. And I need to just go at life and things with what will be, and let's just see how this goes, like with everything. Substitute teaching. I didn't expect that to go as well as it has gone. But every day when I go to substitute, I just think, okay, it is what it is today. We'll just see what the day brings. Another toxic trait I have is always being available. And I thought I'd talk about this in my car because I'm on my way to meet a friend for lunch. And I've done that twice this week. Monday I met a friend and then today. But I don't always want to be available. In my job, I had to be available almost 24/7 when you're working with teachers and students and parents, and it's over 300 to 400 people. A lot of things can happen, so you have to be available. Available on text message and responding to comments on social media and responding to emails. That always available. And I don't like doing videos with my hair up because I think I look like a boy, and I still have trauma from when my mom cut my hair when I was a child. Back in the day when you grew up in my generation, if you didn't brush your hair, your parents cut it off and I look like a boy. So thanks for that, Mom. But anyway, I know she watches these videos, so I had to do that. I need to stop being available all the time. Now, there are some friends and my kids that I'm available for all the time, and I always answer and I always check to see if they needed something. But other than that, just not answering every call. It's hard because I'm retired and people ask, what are you doing? Nothing. And it's hard to say that you're doing nothing. Oh, look, somebody's walking behind me. A toxic trait I'm trying to get rid of is not to always be available. Procrastination. That's not a toxic trait that I developed in my work environment, but it's a toxic trait from working so much. If you're not rested and you're busy all the time, which busy is the 7th thing that I'm going to talk about that is a super toxic trait, and I think this is regardless of anybody, is the busyness culture that we have. I'll talk about that in just a second. Procrastination, when I get home for laundry and grocery shopping and cleaning the house and working in the yard, I will walk past the laundry on the couch until the dawn of time because I'm exhausted. I just don't want to do it. Or taking my clothes off and not putting them away and just throwing them on the bed or throwing them on the trunk by my bed. Now I'm much better about doing things as they come up, but I have time. In this phase of life is if I was still working, I would not be hard on myself about these things. It would be okay if I was not getting all of the things done. My doomsday scrolling is got to stop so that I can get the housework and the laundry and the cooking. I spend a lot more time cooking and doing dishes and preparing meals than I ever did because we ate out all the time. I could afford eating out when I was getting extra pay. Now I'm just working through my budget and how the months are gonna look now that I'm retired. I have to go run an errand, so I thought I would just do this one really quick in my car. Another trait that was developed over the course of the last 10 or 15 years is doomsday thinking. And in my profession and public education, you're like one social media post away from losing your job, losing your career, ending up on the local news or the national news. That happened to me one time. I'm always transparent and I'm always honest. What you see is what you get, and that's the way I was when I was working in a school. But as you can tell, Facebook posts and Facebook pages and social medias have ruined so many teachers' careers, and unfortunately, we are not able to tell you the whole story sometimes, and just a portion of that story is enough. Your job is over. There was my work. And a couple of the things at work that was really stressful and doomsday is after a school threat or something happens in a school, I don't want to say it on YouTube because I don't want my YouTube video to be flagged, but if a bad thing happens in a school, the next few days are really tense because teachers are nervous and stressed, parents are nervous and stressed. Kids are too sometimes, but at the elementary level it wasn't that bad because I hope they were shielded from some of those things. After threats at schools was a challenging time. The car line, I don't know if you see all the car line TikToks and all the car line videos that are funny and not so funny about how long the car line is. There's doomsday thinking in the car line. It stresses you out every time. Even as the leader of the school, the car line stressed me out. But I addressed it head on and said, school gets out at 3:25. If you get here at 2:25 to sit in the car line, you're obviously going to be sitting there an hour. So don't complain about the length of the school line if you get there that early. Anyway, those are just examples. But another way that I've had to overcome doomsday thinking is I mentioned in a couple of videos ago, that I lost 2 family members to motorcycle accidents. And those things happen in an instant. You start to worry about things happening surprisingly or in an instant. For example, my daughters are going to a Pitbull concert tonight. Of course, I could have doomsday thinking about something happening to them, but that's something that I've worked on for probably a couple of years, is getting past doomsday thinking, because my heart is in the right place. I'm a genuine person. I want to serve people and I want to do the right thing. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. As far as safety and health and my kids, that's a really hard one for me, because my anxiety and worry can be a level 10 instantly if I don't keep it under wraps or keep it under control whenever my kids go do something, or when my daughter drove off when she got her driver's license when she was 16. Those are really high doomsday thinking events for me that I've been working on, and I think I'm better. What does rest look like to you? My toxic trait is that rest is doing something. Resting is sitting on the couch, relaxing, but scrolling. Well, that's not rest, because scrolling stresses you out. Rest is going to bed, but reading a book until I fall asleep. Yeah, there's times that I have to do something or I have to read something before I fall asleep because I can't sleep. But what does rest look like to you? Over the last 30 years, I haven't rested. I don't know what rest looks like. In the job that I was in, there was no rest. Teachers don't rest, principals don't rest. You have a continuous job, a continuous cycle. And then there are programs like 75 Hard, which is a great program when it's appropriate for you, or streaks like run streaks and walk streaks. I love watching people accomplish those things. I love watching people's 75 Hard journeys. I love watching streak journeys. I have some really good friends that are doing run streaks. I love that. And I'm so proud of them and I love that for them. The kids, oh my gosh, this is so terrible. The kids have Snapchat streaks. And I asked a girl when I was substitute teaching, I'm like, what are you doing? Because she was on her phone and they were all on their phones, but I just kind of was interested in what she was doing. She's like, I got to finish my streaks. I'm like, okay, how many streaks do you have? Who's on your streaks? What are you talking about? She goes, well, I have about 40 friends and I think I'm 250 days into streaks. Just think about that. You think about that in your mind. How stressful is that for a kid to think that they have to keep that going? So I'm working on rest. What does rest look like? One big thing it looks like for me is just being quiet and having like the television off or not having things playing in the background. I love watching YouTube videos and I have watched some really good ones lately of some people who have retired, or the new category is financial independence, retire early. And that's an interesting category on YouTube that has kind of popped up in my recommended, so you can watch those. Rest may be just going outside in the sun for a few minutes, going for a walk without my headphones. Well, I mean, walking isn't resting, but you know what I mean. I need to redefine what rest is. I don't have any idea. Another trait is negative self-talk, but I don't know if negative self-talk was developed in my profession and in my work. I feel like education can be a negative profession with a lot of complaining. However, my negative self-talk about my hair, my clothes, how I look, the decisions that I make, the mom that I am, talking to myself and thinking, oh, you look terrible in that, your hair looks terrible, your makeup looks terrible. Those things, like having that negative self-talk, is such a bad trait. I was gonna title this YouTube video Toxic Habits, but these aren't habits I've developed, they're just traits that have become part of my life that I really have to work on now that there are no expectations, like I mentioned earlier. I also have to be really careful of this around my daughters. Teenagers can be so impressionable, and when I say, oh, these make me look fat, or this, I look fat in that picture, or let's take another picture, that has such a profound effect on young girls. I really have to be careful about that. There's negative self-talk in your head, and then there's the talk that you speak out loud. And I'm really good about not speaking it out loud anymore because I watched something about putting that bad energy out into the universe. And if you say it, it's more likely to happen than if you don't speak it. And that's for good and bad. It meant speak good into the world, and then that's what's going to happen. But in my mind and just everyday situations when I'm doing things, catching myself thinking negatively, like the high school kids aren't going to like me as a substitute teacher, they're going to think I'm a dork. Not thinking those things, or changing that thinking to how can I serve them and what can I do to better help them, hopefully will help me get out of the negative self-talk cycle that I'm in. And the last one is the culture of being busy, or we live in a culture of busyness, and that has become a trait for me. It's easy to say, I'm so busy. When somebody calls, hey, what are you doing this weekend? I don't know, I'm really busy, I got to think about it. Or how was your week? My week was busy. What was today like? It was so busy today. Obviously, you get my point. Well, when you've done that for 30 years and now you're not busy, what do? When people call to ask me what I'm doing, I'm not really doing anything. Therefore, I can't say, oh, I'm busy, I can't go out to eat, I can't go to the lake. I have to be able to say, I just don't want to, or just no, I don't want to go, when it's easier to say, I'm busy. Another thing about that is the legitimate fact that you have plenty to do and now you don't. When I was working, I did have things to do all the time. The list was endless. I had a never-ending list. Now I can do it whenever I want. I may have a long list and have a lot of things that I need to do, but it's on my time and it's when I want to get it done. I don't feel busy. I don't feel this uncontrollable urge and energy to be going, doing all the time. And that's probably the biggest one to get used to or let go of in retirement. I see this as kind of a bonus trait or a bonus thought. I saw this on my notes when I just wrapped up this video, but it was too good not to share. But letting go of hurt feelings. I don't know that that's a trait of holding on. I don't hold grudges, or I don't hold things against people or seek revenge. The hurt feelings that come from being an administrator are something a lot of people don't talk about. When you're a boss, people speak to you in your position and not as a person. And some of the things that people said and did over the years hurt my feelings. And I'm trying to let go of those things and not remember that when I think of that person or I think of that event. I don't want to share specific times people have hurt my feelings because I don't think that was their intention or what they meant to do. It's just they didn't realize it. Just because I'm a boss doesn't mean that I'm not a person and a human, and I'm trying to do the right thing, but we have to also act in the position. As a person, I don't want to let people go or have hard conversations. As a principal, that was my job. I had to do those things. And things were said and things were done over the years that hurt my feelings. And I feel like holding on to those things is a toxic trait. I think revenge and grudges are a toxic trait, and I've never done that. Even when we had incidences with parents who are in the heat of emotion or something happened because there was an emergency, I don't ever hold that against people. That's just something that happens in the time. However, I haven't let go of hurt feelings, and I'm really working on that. Over the course of this month recording these videos about retirement, I've learned a lot, and a lot of other retirement videos have come up on my recommended that I've watched that have helped so much since the video that I posted about my budget, that is giving me permission to record how my retirement is going and the fact that people need to hear the reality of it. And I hope that it's helpful. I've created a retirement playlist. I'm putting all of these videos in one spot where you can just binge watch like Netflix. And my next video coming up is, why do you want to retire? Do you have to retire? Stay tuned.